Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you today. This is my first ever negotiation video insights series, and I have a very special guest today, Mrs. Satu Ahlman, the founder and CEO of Saga Performance. And today we'll be discussing how to prepare for a negotiation from the point of view of your body, your mind, and your spirit. If you have any questions, feel free to share them below. I'm sure we'll be willing to answer whatever comes to your mind because the topic is fascinating. It's something that not many negotiators pay attention to, as far as I can tell. So, Satu, tell us.
Hi, Pavel.
Hello. Saga Performance is all about performance, resiliency, and leadership. I know you're based in Nordic. You deliver services in Middle East and across the globe, really.
Yeah.
What is it that you help your clients with, and how is this different or special from your perspective?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, Pavel. Great to have the chance to talk about this topic, and especially related to negotiation. I find it very fascinating myself as well. So what is it that I help people with? Performance optimization and sort of helping people to perform on the top level with their capacity in a sustainable manner. And this means all sorts of adjusting of behaviors, but also understanding how your body reacts to certain situations, like stressful situations. I like to use data as much as possible, which means that I use testing to understand what actually happens in your system, in your body, whether it is your genetic data or sleep or stress and recovery patterns and heart rate variability and so on. So just to give you a short intro.
You say short.
Yeah, well.
Okay. You know, I can imagine, and I've seen managers and salespeople spending every available minute on preparing their PowerPoint slides, the questions and answers, and really looking at all the details before having the important pitch to the investors or negotiating an important deal. But I haven't really noticed people, you know, looking at the data to see what their body is telling them. What would you do with a busy manager ahead of an important pitch or an important meeting, let's say, having to lay off some people or hiring or negotiating with a new partner? What would you recommend him to do before this important event?
Well, obviously it is a longer process that if you want to secure that you're performing on the top level, it's not just what you do on that day, it's what you do with your life in general. But if we're thinking about like how to prepare on the spot, well, the night before, make sure that you are calm and relaxed, you get enough good quality sleep. I think those are like the basics to keep in place or keep in mind. And then when the situation occurs, obviously it's about your mindset, your energy levels, your attitude, and the fact that you have prepared for that. That already minimizes the negative stress, because you need to feel that you are in control of the situation and you can focus. And if you have a positive mindset about the situation, you are quite safe in your zone, I would say.
Okay, so all the hard work I put in the preparation can actually help me as an anchor to feel safe that I will manage.
Absolutely.
Whatever comes.
Yeah.
And is there any tip what to do the last 15 minutes before, you know, it's my turn or before my partner accepts me in the big meeting room?
Yeah. One thing could be just focus on breathing. Just don't do any last 15 minutes preparation work. So you're already done everything that you need to do. So for those last few minutes, you want to calm your mind and body down. And that could be, like, for instance, a breathing exercise where you we call it the box breathing, or Navy SEALs, they use it as well to calm their nerves down. And you can actually feel and sense like your heart rate is going down. So you breathe you count to four, for 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4 again. And if you do that like 5 rounds, that should cover your preparation for those last few minutes. Then you're in control, calm, ready to go.
Yeah. How did you get into this field? Because I know you were a performance trainer or behavioral trainer before, and I know there is some overlap. So how do you get into this field?
Yeah, it is definitely overlapping, and I'm still using all the behavior training that I've been doing for many, many years. And I also work with leaders and managers, so that part is still there. And now, how did I get to this was actually just pure curiosity, because I've always been like interested in learning new things, but then I also became more and more interested in health and wellness. And I started reading about DNA testing. I did a couple of DNA tests myself, those kind of that you can just buy online and then you get a nice report. And I was wondering, like, how could I take this further? Is there some place where I can study this? And what is this kind of genetic data? What can I do with it? And then I ended up studying actually in the Appear and Zoe Institute to get the certification for epigenetics. And that was the first time I knew about epigenetics. I only heard about DNA testing and these kind of consumer reports that you can get. And a whole new world opened to me, because then I realized that, wow, it is actually that the truth is that everything is connected. Like the way I live my life is up to me, but every choice I make is influencing different parts, and they're connected. And if I want to be on the top level, cognitive capacity, both also physical capacity, and live a healthy life, I really need to look into all these areas, from mindset to nutrition, to how I sleep, how I recover, what kind of vitamins do I get, because that's the whole puzzle. That's how I build myself as a fully functioning human being.
So that's what's behind the word sustainability, right? That you can actually maintain a high level of performance for a long period of time.
Yes, because ultimately, many of the clients and many who I speak to want to live a healthy life for a long, long time. So it's also about the longevity aspect. So sustainability, longevity. And you want to be able to, even when you're 70 years old, still have this capacity that you had when you were 40 or 50. And not to feel like, okay, this was it, I have to retire because my brain is not just functioning anymore, or my body is not functioning.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point. I've seen many managers who have been in I would say very high positions, and all of a sudden they felt they didn't have the energy to continue, or that they didn't find the joy anymore in doing the job. So it's not only what I say and what's my strategy and how much, what's the maximum I can get and the minimum I can get, but it's also how I breathe, what I eat, what I drink, how I sleep.
Yeah, definitely. And because how you stress in the situation, and if you are in control, that can be physically seen in how your heart rate goes up. And it can also be mentally very, very frustrating when you feel like your emotions are kicking in instead of the rationality that you would like to have and the focus that you would like to have. And that can, of course, be trained. So it's not like you just get the data and you're like, okay, so this is how I react. That's when you start training. And that's when your type of training also, of course, in the negotiation comes in, that you help the person to have the tools and the techniques and the tactics to be in control and to actually have less stress.
Talking of which, Satu, there is a famous negotiation technique which is called going to the balcony, like basically getting into kind of a helicopter observer view after some time to reconnect with what is it that you really want, and maybe get some breathing time and then come back.
Right.
How long would you say, with your experience, should a negotiation last before the capacity of the brain starts to be just used? Like, can we function an hour or 20 minutes or 90 minutes?
Well,
Is it relative?
it depends on the situation, the intensity of the situation. But if you just in general think of people focusing 20 minutes, and then you start sort of losing track and you start getting distracted. But obviously, if you're having a dialogue and a conversation, that can go on for a longer period of time. But having really sharp, mindful focus, I would say 15, 20 minutes. And then in the best world, you would have a short break. The short break could be just 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then you get back. But maybe you don't have that possibility always. But you can take tactic breaks, right, in the negotiation. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. What sort of drinks should I, if they offer me a coffee, should I accept it?
Once again, it depends on you. So if we would have done a genetic analysis on you, we would know what kind of metabolism you have when it comes to caffeine. And some people, for instance, I have double the time for metabolizing caffeine. So I get also the negative effects from too much caffeine, which is more like stress, anxiety. So I would not recommend myself to have caffeine or coffee just before a negotiation. Then if you tolerate it well, maybe that's just exactly what you need. You could imagine some people take naps, and then what they do is like before the nap, they actually take a short espresso. Then they have a 50-minute nap, and that's when the espresso then starts kicking in. And when you wake up, you're really focused, and then you got all the benefits. So you need to know yourself. That if you don't know yourself, and if you feel like I shouldn't have this coffee, then definitely don't do it before an important meeting.
So, but I'm getting the feeling that that's where the data or the measurement kicks in, right? To have a very relevant report or information about how my body or my mind reacts.
Yeah.
And what is good for me and not so good for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Satu, how does that work? How does that work globally? If you're based in Stockholm,
yeah,
and you have a client, say in Prague, how do you do the measurement? Does it require? Do you have like a network of professionals, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, actually, everything can be done virtually. So what we do with the First Beat, first of all, there is a network. So there are a lot of coaches around the globe if you would need them. But what we do now during COVID times, for instance, everyone is working anyway from home. And what we can do is that we send the First Beat device to you. That's normal procedure without COVID as well. And you wear it, you send it back. We get the data, then we hop on a Zoom meeting, and then we coach you further. And the same thing with the DNA testing and the epigenetic analysis is that you get the DNA test kit home, you take the saliva test, you ship it back, it goes to the lab in the States, and then the raw data, the genetic code is sent to you in a file that you own, that you then share with your coach. And then the coach uses that data and the knowledge that she has to understand the epigenetics through the coaching process that we have.
Wow. Is that a long document, the genetic data?
It's a TXT file with a lot of codes. And actually, you can't really, as an individual, when you receive it, you shouldn't even be trying to understand it because it's not a report. So once you send it to the coach, then the coach is using that to build a report together with you. So there are no automated reports in that sense. Everything is done because we understand now that your lifestyle affects the genes. We need to first understand your lifestyle today. And then we look into the links to the genetic variants. Then we can give you feedback and start adjusting behaviors. And that whole thing becomes a report, yes.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah.
When I used to do a lot of international work, I was always the first guest at a restaurant because for me dinner starts at 6. And the restaurants in the south of France or in the Latin countries open at 7. So I would always be kind of knocking on the door. Are you open yet?
Yeah.
Does the, I guess it depends also on where you live, but does how late is your dinner? Does that have a big impact on your performance the next day?
I would say yes. Also, question about the whole system, because first of all, we have our circadian rhythms. So depending on if you are a morning person or a night owl, that by knowing that, we can then decide when would be the optimal time for you to actually have dinner. And then there's this sort of common rule or advice that you shouldn't be eating too close to the bedtime. And imagine if you have a very heavy dinner with some wine very late and you go sort of directly to bed after the dinner. So the entire night, your body is actually handling the food and the alcohol. And probably your resting heart rate is going to be higher than it should. So you can't be fully recovered. But if you instead would have the dinner maybe at your time at 6 and then go to sleep at 10, 11, you would have had enough time to actually digest the food, calm down, and then the sleeping time would be just recovery for you and your brain.
Fantastic. It's a really fascinating topic. I'm sure we could discuss it for much longer.
I love that.
At the same time, I need to take into consideration the capacity of the listeners or
Yes.
viewers. So to conclude with Satu, what would be the top 3, maybe I should say easy advice, but let's say doable or actionable advice that based on your experience is the best starting point? What could be the 3 things for negotiators or managers or people who travel a lot, who fly the globe and have a frequent flyer card, platinum card? What would be the top 3 pieces of advice you would have for them to keep performance level sustainable and at the top?
Good. Find routines, daily routines, morning routines and evening routines that suit you. And even if you're flying and traveling a lot, I would still recommend that try to stick to those routines. Like if your routine is to go to bed at 10, try to do that every single day. If your routine is in the morning to take a walk, which probably would be recommended to everyone, to get some fresh air first thing in the morning and get some sunlight, vitamin D, do that every single morning. Our bodies and minds like routines, and that will then sort of create extra space for you to actually be creative during the and use your brain into other stuff than stressing about evenings or mornings. Then another thing would be, in general, try to avoid using laptops and screens 2 hours before bed, because those distract you and also, in the worst case, block your melatonin production, the sleep hormone, which again makes your recovery worse than it should, because you might get disrupted sleep and a lot of issues because of the blue light that is everywhere on the iPhone, iPad, and computers. So that's 2. And well, 3 would be start being more conscious about how you react in stressful situations. And once you realize that, okay, now this was a stressful situation, sort of analyze your own reaction and behavior. And then next time when you're there, maybe start with this kind of breathing exercise and test something that can calm your senses and nerves down.
3 pieces of advice, starting from the back: watch yourself, be more self-aware, how you react to stress. Number 2, don't really fall asleep in front of a TV 2 hours before. And the first one was, and I like that one a lot, do you have your routine wherever you go for the morning and for the evening?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Satu.
Thank you.
Where can people learn more about your approach? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sagaperformance.com is the website. And then you could also check LinkedIn, Saga Performance, Facebook, and Instagram. We're very active. So the Instagram handle is Saga Performance Official.
So I'll be also putting the link below this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Satu, for sharing this fascinating field.
Thanks,
I've certainly
Pavel.
got some inspiration what I should and shouldn't be doing to function at a better level.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any question, once again, feel free to ask them. Also, if you have a topic you would like to hear in this negotiation video insights, let me know. Thank you for watching and have a nice rest of the day.